Well, welcome to Chicago Health Television. I'm here with 4 people who have just given a seminar called The Insider Secrets to Government Corruption. And Chip Tatum is one of the people. Welcome to the show. Also, Ted Gunderson, welcome to the show. Bryce Taylor, welcome. And Barbara Hartwell, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Okay. Now, I'm going to just ask directed questions to each and every one of you. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about what you were doing and what the purpose of the seminar was. So many of our viewers and listeners have not really had exposure or especially detailed information about what we're doing. So if you could just simply generalize and tell us what's going on with the insider corruption. Who'd like to start?
You want me to start?
All right, Ted.
Why me?
First, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I was in the FBI for 27 and a half years, and at the time of my retirement in 1979, I was the senior special agent in charge of the FBI Los Angeles office. I had over 700 people under my command. We had, for jurisdiction, most of Southern California, over 14 million people within the area over which we had jurisdiction. And let's see, I was honored as the Outstanding Law Enforcement Officer of the Year in 1977 by the AFL-CIO Metal Trades Union in Los Angeles. I was asked by Attorney General Griffin Bell when I retired to coordinate security for the Pan American Games. I worked as a consultant for the '84 Olympics, and I was a consultant to the California Narcotic Authority when Governor Brown, Jerry Brown, was governor.
Well, you certainly had a lot of experience, haven't you?
Well, yeah, I probably overdid it, but as far as my introduction is concerned, but I figured I'd throw in the kitchen sink.
No, that's important.
Well, it's important to establish credibility.
Exactly.
And I have credibility, in spite of the fact that many people would like to say I don't have credibility, because since shortly after I retired, I developed information personally about just extensive corruption in the government, not only at the federal level, but all the way down to the city and state level across this country. And, I have the documentation, I have the research, and I have the personal knowledge, and I have personally investigated many of these situations. That's basically an overview.
Well, when you say corruption, there's a specific kind of corruption you're talking about that you focus on, isn't that true?
No, really, corruption is pretty all-inclusive of... I have information about corrupt judges, corrupt law enforcement, prosecutors, county officials, judges, and it runs the gamut. It's not really specific at all unless you, and as a matter of fact, it includes a number of areas. Like, for example, I have developed information in Nebraska in a case I investigated in the late 80s involving international trafficking of children and kidnapping that ties into an organization in Washington, D.C. known as the Finders, which is a covert CIA operation. Has been active since the early 1960s. I furnished this information to authorities, Attorney General of the United States, to the FBI. Nobody does anything about it. Now, if that isn't corruption, I don't know what is. That's corruption at a major level.
Oh, yes. And what you're doing here at the Global Sciences Convention is talking about corruption that is related to Bryce and Barbara and Chip, isn't that so?
That's true. It all overlaps. It involves drugs, involves pornography, involves prostitution, it involves the cults, pedophilia. There's people, as Chip will tell you, the CIA's involved in bed with the mob, the mobsters, and the people in the White House that have been active in blackmailing people, individuals, and also at other levels, not only the White House. And it just basically runs a gamut.
Well, is there some overarching or underpinning ideal or idea, some purpose behind this corruption, rather than just making a little money on the side or whatever? Isn't there?
The bottom line is to take over the country and the world.
For what, though?
Power, greed. This goes back over 200 years, back to 1776, with the establishment of an organization known as the Illuminati. And if your listeners don't know what the Illuminati is, they need to run down to the library and look it up and do some research, because on May the 1st, 1776, a fellow named Adam Weishaupt, German, set forth 25 goals at the request of the Rothschild group that they needed to initiate in order to take over the world. We're talking about destroy the sovereignty of countries and destroy religions. And that's where it really started in modern day. And right today, believe it or not, and we have the documentation for this, we are probably 90%, their goals have probably been filled at the great rate of about 90%.
And what's happening now?
Well, we have, for example, executive orders by the president. Executive orders were established initially for the president to give orders to departmental heads. The presidents of the United States have actually set up executive orders with unlimited power, bypassing the Constitution, and there's executive orders in place today that can take over all banking, take over all forms of transportation, take over the harbors, take over air transportation, take over industry, take private property away from us, and the list goes on and on and on. And also there's an executive order in place that the president can declare martial law in the event of a national emergency, in which case we have a dictatorship. I'm not sure we don't have a dictatorship today. It's probably a socialist government, totalitarian government.
And aren't we close to some kind of national emergency right now?
Well, there's a possibility of biological warfare, and we just had a scare out of Las Vegas, Nevada, anthrax scare, and yes, I think there's a good possibility that could come down. Now, a fellow named Larry Wayne Harris, who was apprehended by the FBI in Nevada recently, in fact, it was on February the 18th of this year, they thought he had some anthrax in his possession. It wasn't. It was some not antibiotics, but anti-serum vaccine. Vaccine. And fortunately, that was true. But at least one good thing came out of that. It alerted the American people as to what the problems were and the possibilities of what could happen to us.
Okay, now your seminar here tonight. I want to go on to a couple of the other guests here. You summarized what you were doing here tonight, and you had a 3-hour seminar. And our show is kind of short, so I'm going to move on and get another piece of the puzzle here. Bryce, what about you? How about you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Bryce Taylor, and I'm an intergenerational satanic ritual abuse survivor and government mind control survivor. And basically the ritual abuse was used as a trauma-based conditioning for mind control that I was put under by the CIA, and was programmed at military bases and at NASA centers around the country in order to have my mind in mind control that was guaranteed through national security that I would never be able to remember or tell. However, due to an accident that I had, I was able to start having flashbacks, and I started remembering being prostituted and used in pornography. From the time I was very young, used in child pornography, and then as I grew older, I was used by different presidents and governors, and I was flown in helicopters to different areas in Hollywood to be used by some of the people, the actors in Hollywood, as well as being used by different, like I was saying, different politicians. But Henry Kissinger was involved with creating a lot of my high-level programming, where he was able to use the technology that they had gleaned in all the research that was done to create in my mind what he called government mind files, where I was programmed to have a perfect photographic memory, and I was used to, as a human tape recorder of sorts, to pass messages between the officials and the global elitists that are planning to bring in the New World Order.
And that was the point I was thinking of. It. All of that you were used for on the service of this New World Order. Is that right?
Yes, I was. And actually, Bob Hope was my owner, and owned also my daughter. And through that, we were used as like intelligence